welcome to Portsmouth This Week. I'm Jeffrey Shard. I'll be hosting the program today. This is the 22nd of February. And today we're going to talk a very relevant, timely issue. We're going to talk to our Director of Public Works, Mr. Dave Kehew. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
To the program. We have had quite a bit of snow so far this summer with Nero and then a follow-on storm right away. So I imagine that your department has been very busy.
Yeah,
is that fair to say?
Yeah, I would say
Okay.
Definitely.
Good.
It's been flat out snow removal and snow removal.
What I thought we could do
but,
today is sort of walk ourselves through the process, and in the process we'll talk about your department.
Sure.
But we're sitting there watching the weather, and all of a sudden somebody says, "Well, next week we're going to get hit." Now, what happens at your department when you get, you start planning on a major event? What do you do?
Pay very close attention to all weather forecasts and EMA, what they issue for us, and depending on what type of event is predicted, we kind of zero in on what we anticipate, what is the best chance for what we're going to get. Then the prep work starts, where we'll actually make sure that all the vehicles are fueled, diesel generators fueled, the trucks are gone through by the men who drive them, make sure all the lights are working, wipers, plows up and down, back and forth, and for our sanders, they'll make certain that the pony motors and are all operational, so we're prepared.
Mm-hmm. How much equipment do we actually own here in Portsmouth, and how many people do you have to manage that equipment? Right
now, we have 13 men in the department, 2 of which are Prudence Island workers, and then we have a police mechanic and our head mechanic. So we're been short-staffed for some time now. Traditionally, how large have you been? We've been as high as 18 men. Right now we're 13, and what we're looking, in the immediate future is get back to a minimum of 16. Okay, so how much gear does that? For that, what we have, we actually have our frontline equipment that goes out for the storm. We have a backhoe. We have a front end loader. The front end loader typically stays to the shop for landing, for loading sand and salt mix. We have 8 10-ton trucks. 7 of the 10-ton trucks are equipped with the large sanders that you'll see going through the neighborhood. The 8th 10-ton truck is strictly a backup truck, but only a plow. So that's if and there's breakdowns every single storm that we have. Then we have 9 1-ton trucks, and they're on the road into the smaller neighborhoods, not the steep hills like Leaps and Fairview. And 2 of those are backup, which are essentially used every storm. A vehicle breaks down, there's something for someone to go to. And the folks that are going to drive those vehicles, do you have any part-time help? Because 13 people minus administrators... Yeah, it doesn't work out mathematically, no. Fit, no. Yeah, no, we're fortunate. Actually, the town's been really fortunate that these big storms have been on the weekend. We have 3 excellent guys, part-timers, and they do a good job for the town. They truly do. And they'll actually come in. They're not CDL license holders, so they're driving, the smaller 1-ton trucks, and they're familiar with their routes. They really do a good job for the town. The problem is, they're available. They have full-time jobs. One of them's self-employed, so that's not an issue. But for this side, we have the 3 part-timers. Prudence Island. We have 1 part-timer and another one that really bailed us out this last storm for Prudence. So there's 5 altogether, 3 here and 2 on that side. So of all the folks that are actually available to you, do they get assigned the same plow route every time? Do they sand the same roads? How does that work? That is, as you know, we had one guy sick out of work, right? So what we end up doing is we assign the same plow route with the same truck and the same man as much as we possibly can. If we have a truck that breaks down, every guy has a binder, and if they're caught up on their route, or if I need to slot out, or the deputy needs to slot out, we can go right to the binder in chronological order and say, okay, they left off on this road, and pick up the route until they're back in service. So that's become a key. You know, if you're on the same route, you're used to it, you'll typically do a better job on your own route. You know all the you know, little ins and outs of it, and it's more efficient for the town and saves the town money.
I noticed in my neighborhood that the first time through plowed, but basically straight up the middle of the road.
Yep.
And you talk about that first. Is that an emergency vehicle kind of access?
That's, you know, and again, each storm is different. There's never two storms that are alike. So each requires a different strategy. But for generally speaking, you know, if you have a decent snowstorm, even 4 inches, you know, the set rule is that we know the weather forecast, we know what the temperature is going to do, what the winds are going to do, how it's going to be for the next couple of days. All that, you know, plays into the strategy. But basically, you're right. We want everybody to go down and do what we call a 2-pass. 1 pass to the right, 1 pass to the left, and that allows emergency vehicles, or ambulances, fire departments, and police to be able to respond in an emergency. So that's the first thing that we do.
That's just snow removal. That has nothing to do with sanding and salting. Once you've got the emergency access done, then you stay at it. You go back and you push the snow further to the side.
We have what's called a curb-to-curb policy in town, and which has saved us more times than you could possibly imagine. You know, when you have big snow events, you know, there's frustration with neighbors because you're continually putting snow, you know, into their driveway. But the curb-to-curb policy basically is once you get the snow and it's open, then we want to push back, and the pushback is to open the storm drains along the sides of the roads. You imagine if they're covered and you get the rain, which we just had. Now you've got flooded basements all over the place. So
and ice on the road.
And you know, hazardous road conditions. So we open up to the storm drains. Then the other important factor is residents, you know, count on their mail delivery, and the post office, you know, they want to be able to pull up to that mailbox and put the mail in. So that's an important factor.
I try always to shovel to get my mailbox free, so that.
Yeah, and the third thing is if we don't push back as far as we can, and then we have another big snowstorm, your roads will end up being little tunnels, and we don't want that to happen in Portsmouth.
Well, with that philosophy in mind, if Nero, I guess, would be maybe the best example. Here the power goes out, okay, and you're out there trying to go curb to curb, with the few number of people that you actually have driving trucks. They have to sleep. I mean, how long can you keep somebody behind the wheel before they have to be shifted out and sent home? And
we're public servants, and you know, unlike you know, a company with a Class A driver can be on the road X amount of hours, and then by federal law and documented they have to be out of service. It's very important to know your men, to feel, and I'll actually say to know the energy that's going on during these long events. Typically, when you get around 16 hours, that's when you typically need to try to get men off the road and get rest. And some events, the blizzard, you know, we had our men go 37 hours straight, no sleep, no rest. And you know, it was pretty amazing to me because I didn't receive a single complaint from one of our employees. There wasn't a single issue with one of our employees. Not only did they do the 37 hours straight, we called them back in the next day and they did another 12 hours straight.
My goodness.
Which was it was a necessary thing. So, and our guys have been around, they know what they're doing, they realize that. So there were no orders from me to say, this is what you need to do. They knew what they had to do.
Did you want to acknowledge some of those?
I actually do. I really appreciate the opportunity.
It's a great time to do it.
Because you know, we did have 11, you know, 13. We have a couple out right now, but they did work the 37 hours straight. They left for sleep. It was about 8 o'clock at night on Saturday, and then Sunday we asked them to come back in. They all showed back up, and we did an additional 12 hours straight. It was a difficult storm to manage throughout the entire blizzard. As I said, I didn't receive a single complaint. That's huge, or not even a single issue. I did not need to order the men to stay to work. They knew what they were facing, and they stepped up to the plate, and they got to be commended for that. I think a lot of, and our residents, I think, actually appreciate that. I got a lot of phone calls from that, you know. And I do have to mention our part-time workers. There's Ron Clohisi, Sean Kane, Claudio Bento. Those are our guys on Aquinic Island, and I talked to about how well of a job they do. Prudence is Bruce Shaw, who helps our full-time guy, Ryan January. And we had a special thanks to John Cabells because he actually came in and you know, ended up working the entire storm as well. And then we have a gentleman, Matthew Rossi, who lives on Prudence Island, knew that one of our 1-tons was broken down and we're getting close to losing roads. And he volunteered. He came in and actually helped fix an electrical issue on one of the trucks. That's just as a volunteer. So that shows you the community spirit we have over there. And just real quickly, our head mechanic, Matthew Sylvia, he's consistently goes above beyond the call of duty to keep our equipment running. He's the guy that we don't need to ask him, hey, can you stay if you... He wants to stay. He wants to make sure the equipment's good. Those are few and far between. And then last but not least is the deputy, Brian Woodhead. I think you've met him.
Yes, met him yesterday at Melville Park. Yeah.
His dedication and his work ethic are simply second to none. He continues to exceed expectations on every single task that he's given. Unbelievable man. So my sincere thanks go out to all these guys.
Great.
Thank you for letting me get that in. I do
Very
appreciate
good
it.
indeed. And I was down at the Melville Park. We were trying to get ready for tomorrow's winter walk, and we had a lot of downed trees and a lot of snow issues. And you sent Brian and others down to the park and get to it.
Yeah.
So we're thankful. So we can do our walk tomorrow.
That's good to hear.
So I'll tell everybody who watches this program, because hopefully it will have been history of the successful winter walk of 2013. Who takes care of the town hall in the senior center, for instance?
That's Public Works as well.
Okay.
Typically, I'll take care of the plowing out of the town hall. And, like the last case was, the last storm was the senior center. I'm doing those types of things and do the runaround for, we also have a Weaver Cove boat ramp that a lot of people depend on. That's not on the high priority, that's down at the bottom, but we even like to get to that to open it up.
Okay.
And then making a path, Linden Lane, the 70 complex, and through the barn areas out to the Glen Farm access road.
We still have lots of private roads in Portsmouth.
Yeah.
You are not obligated to plow those roads?
No, in cases of emergency, we will go. If there's a fire, police. Instance, we had a 10-ton truck that actually snapped an axle right on the corner of Leaps Road. And so between Fairview and Leaps is Bayview. And so we have to keep a path open. That's one of the important ones because fire depends on and rescue.
We have a lot of hills in Portsmouth.
Yeah, the hills are tough. The hills are tough, and it takes some talent to drive the trucks and put the right amount of material down, and knowing where to put snow and how to use that truck to minimize breakdowns.
How do you make the decision as to when it's time to put sand or salt on a road?
Well, that's it's so expensive. It is very expensive. Salt's running near $60 a ton. Sand is $15.69, almost $16 a ton. And a typical event, sanding and salting, you have to prevent tack. So if you don't get sand and salt down, then the snow can bind to the pavement and make it very difficult. So you want the sand and salt to get out there, mixes in, makes a brine, and prevents that initial tack. So you let it work. And it only works in a range of temperatures. You start getting around 6 degrees, salt is useless. What we'll end up doing is I have a monitor in my truck, and the deputy has a monitor in his truck, which actually measures the air and the asphalt temperature. So knowing the forecast, knowing what the air temperature is, and knowing what the road temperature is just extra tools that we can use to determine when we're going to go out, because it's critical stuff. We're talking about spending money, and so we use it very sparingly, and we have our guys cover our routes, and then typically, after a snowstorm, you got to go back out again and put it down to make the roads safe for the night. So
Right.
it's like a couple 100-ton per event. You
Yeah.
know, 100 ton each time it goes
And you
out.
budget for what, 15 events or something a year, you said?
Typically, the average would be, say, 10. I think the snowfall average in Rhode Island is 37 inches, something like that. But that is not a direct correlation, ever is, as to what the expense is. You know, you get the blowing winds with 3 inches of
No,
snow.
I watched the state work hard on East Main Road because the snowdrifts are coming off the farmland. As soon as they got it plowed out,
Yeah.
went right back again.
So we go by the events, and typically you want to budget for an average of 10 events a year, meaning you had to go out and, at minimum, sand and salt, never mind plow. And so far to date, we've actually had 15 events, so we're a third more.
The state owns East Main and West Main, is that it though?
No, actually I'll have to refer to a list. There's, they actually, let me see if I can find that quickly here. Because that's a good question,
Turnpike,
because a lot of
yeah.
people don't know, but
Yeah,
it's
we don't.
West Main, East Main, Union Street, Turnpike Ave, Bristol Ferry,
Really?
right? Schoolhouse Lane, which is kind of an odd one, right?
Yeah,
And then,
I would say.
yeah, and then from Middle Road, which is from Schoolhouse to Union Street, that's actually state as well. Sprague Street, Park Ave, Chase Road, Boyd's Lane, and then it gets a little tricky because then you have Anthony Road from Boyd's Lane to the State Highway Garage. Then it picks up, and then it becomes Town Road, and then it picks up State again from the entrance to Common Fence Point out to Hummock Ave itself, and then we have be Point Road and Riverside Ave. Those
My
are
goodness,
the last two. So,
I had no idea.
yeah, and
So
the
you-
new
you-
people who move in, they're like, well, what are you doing? Or my mailbox, you know, and it's
Yeah,
like, where do you
okay.
live, you know? So that's something we hope to, you know, we'll be
Okay.
putting on the
So
website.
you have a counterpart, I guess, then a manager of the state's efforts on the island here. Does that manager, is he here or he or she actually on this island?
Yeah, in the state garage.
Okay.
Really, it's not like counterparts we would have in regular
Right,
public
right,
works
right.
with Middletown or my counterparts. I really don't know too much about the state operations. You know, we do know the foreman, we do know the manager over there, and we, you know, can direct people when it's a state issue.
Are you
to the
talking
state
truck to
garage.
truck with those folks too? I mean,
Not state, no. Just, you know, we have, you know, for all our operators, we're able to reach with two-way radios in each truck, and then for the vendor that we call in, we have portable that we, you know, use that so we can communicate.
Interesting. The people who are, you know, who are at their driveway right away as soon as the first plow goes by, and of course we block it with a little bit of debris,
lot
snow,
of debris,
whatever.
yeah.
And it gets heavier. So I mean, there is absolutely nothing anybody's going to do about that. I mean, and I just got a lovely snowblower, and I just try to get through it as fast as I can. If
Yeah.
I leave it there.
You're fortunate to have a snow thrower.
Yeah, but I've been sore for a week.
Yeah, well, it's been a tough winter, and you know, that's one of the highest complaints that we'll get is, you know, well, how come you put snow at the end of my driveway? And you know, it's something that can't be avoided, and we go right left. And we would never say to people, well, wait for the end of the storm, you know, to be pushed back when you see that we're, because then you're not going to be able to shovel it, you know, unless you're, you know, a 18 to 20-year-old
right.
who's got
Full
some
bucket,
power,
yeah.
you know what I mean? So we, you know, recommend you go out there and you shovel and keep up with it. And you know, there are instances where you know, if you look down and there's 2 or 3 feet in everybody's driveway, that's, you know, it's kind of like tough luck. There's nothing we can do. There are instances, very few, but there are instances if a particular corner, or if we send if we have a, you know, a 7-foot drift, and we have the front end loader, and then the front end loader's going, and it spills, you know, up to 5-6 feet of snow at the end of a driveway. Well, we're not going to do that to people, so we will through, you know, either the backhoe, the front end loader, or truck, make sure that, you know, you clean up after yourselves to a reasonable amount. But our guys are sensitive to it, and but unfortunately, you know, everybody gets their fair share at the end of the driveway.
How's it been in terms of, you know, we chew up the roads normally anyway, but in big storms like this, we do there's a lot of potholes. I was on West Main Road the other day, and the right-hand side of West Main Road is just a mess.
Yeah,
You know?
Yeah, that, and people are jumping lanes to avoid
Yeah, they are potholes,
and
and that is dangerous
it is.
business.
It is. And in New England, it is difficult.
Has it been worse this season for potholes?
It's been tough. Not the worst that we've had, but if you have the frost that's in the ground, and you had those real cold days, and then boom, you're up into the 40s, which happens in New England. The frost is going to raise up to the surface. A couple of things we do once we get caught up with the storm is just like we have plow routes and sand routes, everybody's assigned. We also have cold patch, where we use a product called UPM. It's a high quality, high performance cold patch, worth its weight. It's $125 a ton, but it does the job. You don't want to be continually going back. They check off each road. We know where the bad areas are, so we stay on top of them. And then, with those freeze-thaw cycles, just recently on Potomac, just down the road a little bit from here, a concrete truck, no fault through the contractor or the driver, broke right through the asphalt.
Wow.
And then we had a car carrier, it was on a Thursday night. Don't know why they were in Sea Meadow, maybe to turn around, but they broke right through the asphalt. The base gave way, the asphalt gave way. And we were going to cut it out and put hot mix asphalt back in place, but the plant shut down for February. Usually they're only open Tuesdays and Thursdays. So what we ended up doing, because we knew the snow was coming, is we just graveled up all the crumbs and we put that UPM in place, and it did its job. But eventually we have to get back to that and prep it out and put hot mix in.
Last year, you got some money and you began to pave some of our roads.
Yeah.
Now I understand the budget that's being made right now is going to continue, hopefully to do that kind of thing. And have you got your roads picked out for the next round?
We have in our capital improvement plan, we do have roads picked out. Really very thankful our council and town administrator. The town administrator has been behind, and he understands. It's you pay 33 cents on a dollar if you take care of stuff. And that's been communicated, and the council approved recently. Beta engineering. Not for a lot of money, actually, to do a complete survey of the roads where, I know Brian Woodhead knows and our guys know, and it's not, worst first, oh, that road's horrible, you got to fix it. So it actually gives us the tools necessary to have the math and science behind making the right decision at the right time with the right type of product, whether that's microsurfacing, crack sealing, overlay, or complete reconstruction. So you have to do a proper percentage and mix of that to increase the network, the lifespan of your network. And we did that, last year. I mean, if previous to that, we got nickels and dimes,
I know.
And
so did John Klimm come with knowing about this company? Did he bring that, or is this somebody that you knew?
His dad was a public works director. He was an engineer. Okay. And so you can imagine the stories from the father going to the son of what's going on.
There's some sympathy between the two.
So, well, no, I think he has a very good handle on pavement management.
Great.
And he's able to articulate that, better than I can, to
town
people.
council.
And that's a tool, and we make use of that. My goal is give us the money. I know how to use that money right, and so that's what we need to continue that process and keep putting money into our infrastructure.
Good. The mailbox issue that every once in a while crops up, and how do people deal with the inevitable mailbox issue?
Sometimes I feel bad. We have people who put out a $500 granite post. And that gets snapped. Some expensive mailboxes, but it's inevitable. In snowstorms, you're casting snow as if the moisture content increases the weight big time, and it doesn't take much of anything for snow to snap off boxes. If you live on a town road, we ask that you call that into Public Works. The town provides that service that will go out, and if it can be repaired, we'll repair it right on the spot. If it can't be repaired, then what we offer is a 4x4 pressure treated post and just a regular, inexpensive certified mailbox. And we will install that. Oftentimes people really rely on their mail, and we get those calls and we need them. So, and if you're in a snowbank, you can't dig, it's frost, but we'll make sure that we put something there, whether it's propped with cinder blocks or a 5-gallon bucket, so that they can get the mail, and then when the weather permits, we'll go back and make the final.
So they're going to
repairs.
call your department directly?
Call our department.
And I think we can probably put that telephone number.
If you could,
it's on the
that'd
screen.
be great.
I think it's on the screen.
Awesome.
Right now.
Yeah.
Good. Well, that's encouraging. I hadn't actually thought about that. I've been here since '91, and I've never had a busted mailbox. But
then you live in a good spot. You live in a good spot.
Yeah, I know. We're getting down to the end of our program here today. But I guess maybe just a couple of thoughts on how you relate with John King and the emergency management team. Last 2 storms, they manned up the emergency center, and how do you deal with John and his?
What for a great guy. These guys are unbelievable. You know that they care about the community like I do. And you just know that. And for these guys to volunteer, that takes. I can tell you, it helps me out tremendously because before. Not too long ago, I was the one that would have to, make the calls and make the calls and make the calls, and so I'm plowing and I get it, and then I have to stop and make the phone calls, and then I got to create a log.
Okay.
Now we can call that into police, through the EOC, and those calls are taken, so we know the utility pole number, they know the road, and they follow through. Which is important because what we need to do is get those roads safe as possible, as quickly as possible, I should say. And just to be able to make the call and rely on Rich Tilitsky, Doug Smith, John King, those guys, just great guys, and I appreciate and I like working with them.
What I was going to talk about then would be a tree comes down, blocks the road, it's touching a power line.
Yeah.
You can't touch it, right?
Yeah.
And
Well,
you can't move snow when there's a tree down.
Right,
with a power line.
so important, and we're set up that when our guys come across a tree in the road, if it's not power line, then we're going to take care of it. They'll call in and they'll say, "Hey, Dave or Brian, we need a chainsaw, we need a backhoe, or we need a front end loader." And what we do is we don't spend the time to be cutting up and get it out of the road as quickly as possible. Make note of it so that way we know we have to go back to it, and that's worked out well. When there's electrical wires in there, that's the cutoff point where we need to have permission from National Grid.
Well, thank you very much, Dave, for sharing your time with us, and that'll be it for today's program.
In 1638, a group of religious dissenters from the Boston colony landed on the shores of an Indian settlement named Pocasset. Roger Williams convinced the settlers that they should go to Rhode Island instead of New Jersey. They signed the Portsmouth Compact and officially named the settlement Portsmouth. At noon on the 7th of March, a ceremony will be held at Town Hall to commemorate the signing of the Portsmouth Compact 375 years before. Come and see the original Town Compact document and listen to a short talk by historian Jim Garman. Join your friends and neighbors and help us all celebrate our 375th year. Visit www.portsmouthri375.com for more information.